Hello and welcome to a video lesson in Practical Research 2. My name is Rodney Giverson V. Garcia, Teacher 3 from Ujawan National High School, and I will be your subject teacher for this course. For this lesson, we shall cover Module 1, Lesson 1, The Nature of Quantitative Research. Let's begin. So in this video lesson, we have to achieve 3 learning goals. The first goal is to determine the nature of quantitative research. Second goal is to compare the different kinds of quantitative research. The third goal is to evaluate the accuracy of the statements pertaining to quantitative research. So recently, there have been a lot of innovations that were made. From COVID-19 vaccines, to the use of online education, to agricultural innovations, to trending advertisements, and new products that help us in our everyday lives. So these innovations were made possible because of a systematic process called quantitative research. So what is this quantitative research? So according to Torneo and Torneo 2017, quantitative research is the systematic empirical investigation of social phenomena using tools of mathematics. So this one sentence alone gives us a lot of information on what quantitative research is. So let's dissect it one by one. Quantitative research is a systematic process. It goes through a series of steps from your rationale to your research problem to your framework. Then we have your methodology, your presentation of analysis, presentation of data, I should say, and also your conclusions and recommendations. So it goes through a systematic process. Aside from that, it is an empirical investigation. So when we say empirical, from the word empiricism, quantitative research deals with observable data, measurable characteristic of your sample. Aside from that, quantitative research deals with social phenomena. When we say social phenomena, these are problems, these are concerns that are associated to society. Say for example, the critical topics like racial justice, gender equality, demographics, politics and governance, economy, and so on. So quantitative research also uses tools of mathematics. So I'd like to say that the wife of quantitative research is statistics, the branch of mathematics that looks into data. So next, quantitative research is used in surveys, advertisements, news, and research journals. Aside from this, quantitative research can be seen in the fields of psychology, anthropology, in medicine, in education, and across fields. So for that topic, we shall cover it in the next video lesson. Moving on, quantitative research has a lot of features. So I listed some of them here for the interest of time. So we have the first one. Quantitative research is objective. When we say objective, quantitative research is not based on opinion. It should be based on evidence that is measurable, that is valid, and that is reliable. Aside from that, quantitative research deals with numerical data. So how do we arrive at an objective answer? Simple. We use numbers, we use data, we use facts and figures. So that's one characteristic of quantitative research. It is associated with numerical data. Hence, it is called quantitative research. Next, quantitative research has clearly defined research questions because we are trying to test a hypothesis. We're trying to test previously conducted studies. We're trying to test a theory. We need to have clearly defined research questions to arrive at clear and specific answers also. Next, quantitative research uses large sample size as opposed to qualitative research, in which qualitative research may use limited number of sample. In quantitative research, however, the larger the sample, the better it is. So we can arrive at a more reliable data, a valid data, and a data that can be generalized across population. Next, quantitative research features, or one feature of quantitative research is replication. We can still study research studies that are conducted already, provided that we have to study it in a new research setting. Say for example, there are a lot of studies conducted in pertaining to study habits of students, but there are no studies conducted yet in our school that concerns study habits. So that's one feature of quantitative research, replication. You can replicate other studies provided that you study it in a new research setting, or you need to investigate another thing or another new thing in that area. Next, our recommendations in quantitative research is future oriented. We have to give recommendations to research, to the field, to the stakeholders that are associated with our quantitative research. Finally, quantitative research has structured instruments. I said it before that quantitative research goes through a rigorous process, and one of it is validating our instruments. Our instruments should answer the research question that we're asking, and that is why our instruments should be tested first. So those are the features of quantitative research. Now we look into the quantitative methods, the ways on how we deal with quantitative research. It says here that quantitative methods are various techniques for collection, analysis, and interpretation of data. In quantitative research, the primary data collection method is survey. We also use observation. We also use interview to triangulate the results that we get from our data analysis. For our data analysis and interpretation of data, of course, we often resort to the wife of quantitative research, and that is your statistics. So you cannot really produce quantitative research without using statistics. So there are different kinds of quantitative research. There are a lot of authors that have different branches of quantitative research, different types, but I have to use, or I have to feature the 4 basic types of quantitative research in the interest of time, and also these are what appear in your module. So the first kind of quantitative research is descriptive research. Descriptive research seeks to describe the phenomenon or the group of people in the study. So descriptive research concerns the what instead of how or instead of why. So say for example, what are the study habits of senior high school students in the new normal? Another, what are the stress coping strategies of senior high school students? Another, what are the attitudes of parents in supporting their children as regards distance learning? So we're trying to describe a characteristic or characteristics of the sample that we are investigating. So that's descriptive research. Another is correlational research. In correlational research, we try to see if there is a statistical relationship between 2 or more data. For example, is there a significant relationship between weekly allowance and academic performance? Does it mean that when you have higher weekly allowance, your academic performance goes up too? Another, is there a significant relationship between attendance and academic performance? So we try to establish, or we try to see if there is a relationship between two or more variables. That's why it's called correlational research. Next, causal comparative research is another kind of quantitative research. It investigates cause and effect relationships between independent variable and dependent variable by comparing two or more groups of individuals. We try to see if there is a cause and effect relationship between two or more variables, but the catch is there is no manipulation of variables. We do not group them randomly. One example is the use of, or the study that involves self-confidence and body mass index. So we try to group the participants based on their body mass index, or BMI, the underweight, the normal, and the overweight, and we see if that has an effect towards their self-confidence. And then we compare if which of the three groups have or has the highest degree of confidence. So that's one illustration of what is a causal comparative research. By the way, causal comparative research is also known as ex post facto research. Again, causal comparative research is also known as ex post facto research. The last kind of quantitative research is experimental research. Experimental research is dubbed as the highest form of quantitative research because it undergoes stringent process. We try to test hypotheses here to establish cause and effect relationship. Unlike in causal comparative research, in experimental research, we expose the participants to a treatment. We introduce something that is new. And then we randomly group our participants. We have the control group and the experimental group. The control group does not receive the treatment, while the experimental group receives the treatment variable. So in the experimental research, the environment is controlled. That's why it's very stringent, it's very rigorous to reduce interference from any other variable. So one illustration or simplified illustration is a research that involves the effect of calamansi in increasing the alertness level of the students. Does eating calamansi increase the alertness level of the students? So this is the research or the experimental setup. The researcher grouped the students into two: the experimental group or group A, and then the control group or group B. So in the experiment, the researcher tried to observe their alertness level. And then for group A, the researcher introduced something that is new, and that is eating calamansi. So he gave out calamansi, and this was eaten by the participants. And then he tried to test if their alertness level increased, decreased, or remained the same. In group B, the control group, the group that did not receive the treatment, the researcher only observed their alertness level before and after the experiment. No treatment was introduced for the control group. So that's one simplified illustration of what an experimental research is. So we're trying to investigate if a treatment may have an impact towards a certain variable in the study. So with that, we have our four kinds of research. Let's try to recall the descriptive research, which concerns the what of a certain phenomena. The second one is correlational research, which tries to see a relationship between two or more variables. The third is causal comparative research, which tries to see cause and effect relationship between two or more variables without giving any treatment, without randomly grouping the participants. Fifth, or the fourth, I should say, is causal experimental research. In experimental research, we test hypotheses to establish cause and effect relationship. So those are your four kinds of quantitative research. Now we try to answer activity 2. The direction reads, write T before each number if the statement is correct, and F if the statement is wrong. Write your answers before the number. Let's begin with number 1. Quantitative research design is the most reliable and valid way of concluding results, giving way to a new hypothesis or to disproving it. True or false? If your answer is true, then you are correct. Quantitative research design undergoes a systematic process, and we use numerical data to arrive at an objective answer, at an objective result. So that's why we have it's a reliable and valid way. So that's true. Second item, quantitative methods also tend to turn out only proven or unproven results, leaving little room for uncertainty or gray areas. So what's your answer here? If your answer is true, then you are correct. So quantitative research or quantitative methods use numerical data, and because we have numerical data here, it leaves little room for uncertainty. Next, quantitative research cannot be costly, difficult, and time-consuming. Difficult because most researchers are non-mathematicians. What's your answer here? The correct answer is false. Quantitative research use large sample size. The more participants or the more respondents, the better. And printing alone the survey material is very costly. It is very time-consuming also. It is also difficult. And although you are not required to be a full-fledged mathematician, in quantitative research, you have to have the basic knowledge when it comes to statistics. So quantitative researchers are more or less statisticians also. Number 4, methods or procedures of data gathering include items like age, gender, educational status, among others, that call for immeasurable characteristics of the population. Again, immeasurable characteristics of the population. So that's your hint. And your answer is false, or F. In quantitative research, we try to include items like age, gender, educational status because we are measuring the characteristic of the population. Number 5, quantitative methods cannot be repeated to verify findings in another setting, thus reinforcing validity of findings. What do you think? So the answer to this item is false. In quantitative research, we can repeat previously conducted studies in another research setting, and that feature is called replication. We can replicate provided that we have to look at new things in that area. So the rest of the items are up to you. Meanwhile, here is your assignment. Please begin looking for interesting topics to be researched. Since you are done with your practical research 1, you already know how to make your research problem look at interesting topics. So for your assignment, you have to look for interesting topics to be investigated in your research. The end product of this course is a full paper from chapter 1 to chapter 5, and I hope that you will be able to make it. So these are my references, and for further readings you have this one. The links are down below the video. So let's be reminded that even though research is hard, Charles Kettering said, research means that you don't know, but you are willing to find out. I hope this video lesson sparked the curiosity in you so that when you encounter something that you do not know, you have the will to find out the answers. So once again, my name is Rodney Giverson V. Garcia, Teacher 3 from Ujjawan National High School. You can contact me on my Facebook account, Rodney Garcia, on my email, rodneygiverson.garcia@deped.gov.ph, and in my YouTube channel, Teacher Rod. So if you haven't liked my video, please like my video and please subscribe to my channel for more educational vids. So see you next week, only here in our video lesson in Practical Research 2. Bye-bye.